The 25th of May 2019, Hampden Park v Hearts and absolute scenes. The treble. A trinity of trebles. I witnessed history in front of my eyes, and I cried and we cried across the globe, far and wide, from the Clyde to Australia, Australia to New York. New York to Santa Ponsa, and pubs, oil rigs, cheap digs, Duke of Wellington statues. And we thank you, Celtic. Edouard's penalty into the net means we're set to resemble the Lions. 1-0 down at half-time, but it's fine. We've got our number 5 and our number 9. Billy McNeil sends blessings from the skies above. God's forming a football team, a dream team, full of passion and full of love. And when we gather in the Celtic way to say thanks for the memories, Chalmers and McNeil, and Siminovic's header to seal the deal that it's not goodbye, as legends never die. On the 67th minute, our number 5 gives us some faith. It's a Glasgow Irish trait. And as half-time came, we're all thinking the same. Fuck's sake, Celtic. No strikers to play. Does Lenny go or does Lenny stay? I can't be arsed with the frustration. I can't be arsed getting into hibernation. But 2-1 at full time. 2-1 and we're in paradise. Glasgow Celtic defying the odds at celebrations at home and abroad. Is this what it felt like in 67, Granda? Did you cry as much as me? I'm witnessing magic in front of my eyes that I never thought I'd see. Tierney, Brown, Forrest, Sinclair, McGregor, Edouard and Hayes, Christie, Henry, Ralston, Lustig, some of the legends of the day. They say Celtic Football Club is a fairy tale.
Welcome to A Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and today I'm joined by Declan McConville and Kevin Graham, and our special guest is Erin Boyle. Welcome to the show, Erin.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you.
It's great to have you here. We want to speak to you about various aspects of your Celtic supporting life, but let's go back to your early days getting into Celtic. What's your memories of going to the games?
My Celtic journey started off as many from my dad, and my dad ran football teams, so football was always a huge aspect of my life. And my earliest Celtic memories was music and culture and storytelling, and I always remember the first time hearing the Celtic song and Hail Hail the Celts are here, and it was on the way to a game, and I must have been about 5 or 6, and my dad was telling me all about his stories, and I always remember listening to these songs in the car. My dad was winding me up and he'd be rolling down the windows and shouting on the hoops and embarrassing me, so that was the first time going to the game, the first earliest memory going to the games with my dad.
What's your Celtic team? What was your earliest memory? What was the team that you were going to see then?
My earliest memory was probably fancying Aiden McGeady, to be honest. And I used to always remember when I was old enough to go on YouTube and I'd be listening to the game highlights, and I always remember listening to Aiden McGeady for some reason. And I always remember sitting in the house one night, and it was a helicopter Sunday, and to be honest, I can't really remember the context as such. And me and my dad, it was one of the games where it would be Celtic were playing whoever it may be, and Rangers were playing whoever they were playing, and it was turning and flicking the channel back and forth and keeping up with the Rangers score and keeping up with the Celtic score. And to be honest, at that time I was in a wee Disney princess dress, and my dad was desperate to get me into Celtic. I must have been about 5 or 6 or something. I honestly can't remember. It's just the wee moments in your life, just the wee highlights that think, wow, that's what made me who I am. That's why I support Celtic today, because of my dad.
See, you mentioned there that you remember the songs and the culture of the club. It's so important. It's something we speak about a lot in a Celtic State of Mind. How important is it to you, the intrinsic link between Celtic and song?
Being part of the Glasgow Irish community, I always find that it's really important to keep a hold of your Irish heritage and the heritage of the club. And one thing that Celtic fans really, really do well is they support the show, and they support the show through music and through chants at the football games and theatre and poetry. And it's something that Celtic fans don't realise, that we're all poets in our own unique way as being Celtic fans. And when the Green Brigade are singing their songs, they're all poets. You know, it's a bit of a cliche to say, but it's part of that Glasgow Irish connection that we have, where we're just great at telling stories in so many different ways. And it's so important to keep doing that, to keep Celtic's story and roots and ethics alive, especially in today's society.
We're a support of immigrants. And you mentioned the Glasgow Irish, but you've got the Irish that came all over Scotland, who Celtic were a beacon for. And one thing for me, I reckon every Celtic fan's got a story. And that's what makes us a unique club, that every one of us has got a story. It's either their father's story, grandfather's story, great-grandfather's story of how we all ended up in Scotland. And Celtic are like the glue that binds us all together. What was your first game?
My first game was a Dundee United game, and I was sitting in heated seats because I just remember being all cosy and phoning up my dad's pals, and they were freezing. It was a winter's game, and I'm pretty sure it was a cup final, I think it was a cup final, because we left at half time and we watched the second half in our beds. I remember that so well.
Heated seats and leaving at
Heated
half
seats
time.
and leaving at half time.
Get booed and hissed by anybody listening in. You're talking, Kevin, about the Irish diaspora all over Scotland, and I think there's a link to Celtic because a lot of the other clubs lost their Irish identity. Hibernian, Manchester United, Dundee United, and various other clubs went out of business. And I think Celtic stayed true to their origins. But someone says to me recently that all the big football clubs now are football clubs who have added a charity arm, but Celtic were a charity that just so happened to be a football club. And I think we've stuck true to those values from the very first day. You mentioned we're all poets. I wish I was. We've got two poets in the room, Kevin and yourself. And we opened this show up with one of your poems. Tell us a wee bit about that.
So Celtic won the treble. And I remember sobbing my heart out because my dad was sobbing his heart out because we were both thinking of my granda, who'd passed away in 2017. And I got my Celtic culture and my love for Celtic through my dad, and my dad was the same. He got his love for Celtic through his dad, and my dad told me a story about how much this would mean to him and this would mean to his granda looking down, and that's where the poem kind of stemmed from. It was, I suppose, in a way, speaking what my granda would be thinking up there, looking down through my eyes as a young Celtic fan. So that's kind of where it began.
It's interesting you mentioned that, because at that Hearts game I was sitting next to an old guy who was in Lisbon, and he was in tears after that game against Hearts, And I think some of the younger generations, and this isn't me saying that they're too used to winning or any of this kind of nonsense that you see, but I don't know if they realise just how historical that day was, and they were watching history unfold in front of their eyes when Eduard scored the 2 goals. It was really the most incredible moment in my Celtic supporting history and my Celtic supporting life. Declan, you are one of the younger generations. How did you feel that day?
I think what Erin's doing just now is she's capturing history in the moment. I think it's maybe going to take 10 years, for me anyway, to look back and think how good a time we've had. 8 titles in a row is a phenomenal success. It's something I've never seen before. Obviously Gordon delivered 3, but I think for us, me and Erin, we've been really, really lucky and blessed with just good players, managers going to Celtic Park a lot of the time as well, and it's been full, especially over these past 3 trebles, going for a 4th this year. We probably are spoiled in contrast to other guys who have seen bad periods. We did have a wee bad period though. Erin's talking about fancying Aiden McGeady there. we saw.
What, did we draw a couple of games or something?
The Rangers won 3 in a row and we had Tony Mowbray, and we got beat at St Mirren 4-0, and we just had a bit of a disaster. Went up to Inverness, get the water bottle incident with Lenny's, boots the water bottle, and we've lost the league. So I think sometimes maybe to appreciate the brilliant moments, you have to understand that we would maybe deem our age to be kind of the bad moments. But in contrast to you guys, I don't think anything's going to really beat the Celtic Da part of the 90s.
I think you mentioned the Inverness game there, but even then, that seemed like the beginning. And Lennon, you talk about Celtic fans being poor, Lennon, that final game of that season, came onto the park and says, this is not the end, this is just the beginning. And he was so true what he actually says about that. What you say about it'll maybe take 10 years for us to appreciate this, I kind of agree with you. And I know in my heart just now, I'm going, I can't look back on it because it's still happening. I'm more actually impressed with the 10 trophies in a row than I are with the 8 titles in a row. I'm more impressed that we've actually won 10 trophies in a row because I know how difficult that is to do. I mean, especially the cup games. You have one bad cup game to go, what we now, 32 cup games undefeated. That is phenomenal. And that's a tribute to the team, the coaching staff. And for me, that is mightily impressive. And it maybe won't hit us all. I mean, we're all sitting here worried about what will happen when we eventually do lose a cup or a league. And I think we'll maybe just react going, that was great, eh? This was always going to happen at one point, so let's don't be sad it's gone, be thankful that it's happened.
Ian Brown.
That is
Stone
Ian
Roses,
Brown.
yeah.
2015, was it?
Hampden.
You mentioned the Green Brigade earlier on, Erin, and again, this is only because it's a point of reference, but I've watched them developing over the years. There was a time where the Celtic Park atmosphere wasn't great, and then the club worked alongside a group of fans called the Jungle Boys. I don't know if you remember that. And that was all about trying to inject a wee bit more atmosphere into the stadium, and there was banners and tifos, etc. That morphed into what we now see as the Green Brigade, who, for me, adds an incredible amount of atmosphere to Celtic Park. What's your thoughts on what they have added to the experience of going to the games?
At the moment, my own experiences on match day is surrounded by 150 kids, all going mental. So I know the importance of the Green Brigade through a 5-year-old and a 6-year-old's and a 7-year-old's eyes. And some of the questions I get asked about them, you would not believe. A young girl asked me, excuse me, do you know anyone in the Green Brigade? Can you text them and get them to send us the lyrics of that chant so we can sing along? So they're so important to keep that atmosphere alive, and the art that they create as well, it's something that will go down in history.
The Green Brigade, much of the opposition to anything they do is through a lens of saying that football and politics shouldn't mix. I think when your football club is formed as a result of the politics of the British, then Celtic and politics go hand in hand. Would you agree with that?
I would agree, yes. I think being a Celtic fan, it's always very important to be on the right side of history. And that's what I find just now, that the Green Brigade are speaking the truth. And in years to come, the Green Brigade will be a huge part of history, being a Celtic fan. And it will be good for our young people and our younger generations coming through Celtic Park to always do the right thing. No matter what people say, it's always important to stay true to your heart and stay true to your ethos and your ethics. The
Green Brigade are just a visual amplification of what happens on supporters' buses on the way up and down the country every week. And that's what they are. They're in the stadium doing that, what me and Declan see every week on our supporters club. What annoys me about the Green Brigade, it's not about the Green Brigade, is the way that they're sometimes exploited by the club. The club will shout at them, tell them not to do stuff, then praise them to the hilt, use their banners and their tifos to sell on their social media platforms and that. One of the most recent ones was UEFA fining us for the tifo against Lazio, then using it to promote the Europa League the following week.
Right.
So you're like, well, make up your mind. Do you want young, energetic supporters who are bringing colour and vibrancy to the stadiums, colour and vibrancy to your competition, which you put on a back burner because it's not the Champions League? Or do you want stale corporate stadiums like the Champions League is actually becoming when you look at some of the games?
As well as that, they're keeping up with European football. You know, I mean, ultras culture, whether people like it or not, is a commonality across Europe. Everybody will have a different view in pyrotechnics, etc. But it's a reality. Celtic aren't the only club in Europe using these. You know, you've saw teams like Bayern Munich, Feyenoord, other big clubs endorsing the ultras culture. Yes, everybody will have their criticisms of the Green Brigade, but they bring vibrancy. And as Erin says, they bring back the true ethos of Celtic, which is to be charitable. Their food bank collection drive is always, you know, it's phenomenal what they do. And yeah, they'll have their criticisms, they'll have their dislikes, but what they do in a match day is imperative, and it has been imperative to what Celtic's achieved. People will say, you know, you can't say a group of boys is what puts the team on, drives them, but they certainly play a big part in it. And when they're not there in the stadium, which was seen probably in the match against Rangers, I know some folk, but atmosphere-wise, was it great? No, it wasn't, and it can be better. And there needs to be a decent balance between club and Green Brigade. Don't exploit them. Get the best out of them and get what they are good for, and that's bringing atmosphere and going back to that charitable roots that Celtic should be really proud of and should be proud of the way we were founded, and stick to, you know, what Walfred's plan was in the start and don't change.
Mm-hmm. Kevin mentioned the Lazio game, Erin. Kevin and I were at the Lazio game at home with Andrew Innes, lead guitarist of Primal Scream, right? And we were sitting next to him watching that game. So you go back to what you were saying there about music and culture and that kind of thing. It does. Celtic has this habit of attracting people who are creative and who are artistic, and you obviously are yourself through your poetry. Talk to us about getting into writing poems and how that's developed over the years.
I've always been a writer from a young age, and I've always been a performer. And I always found that when I was involved in school plays and school productions and theatre shows, I always wanted to write, and I always wanted to have a say on the direction of what was going on stage and characters and the story and the history behind the story that we're telling. And it wasn't until I was about 13 or 14 that I started writing spoken word. I didn't know it was spoken word at the time. It was just a funky way to write poetry, and it was a way to talk to people, really, and it was a way to be able to have my say and to express my opinions, and it was a way to entertain people. And my earliest memory of performing a poem was with my mum and dad, and it was about two young boys who were brought up in the Troubles, and they immigrated to Glasgow with their dads. And those two poems, I was 13 when I wrote them, and I always find a way to perform these poems now as I grow up, because it goes back to the reason why I'm a writer. It's to tell stories, and it's to tell people stories who necessarily can't tell it for themselves. I write a lot about my granda. I write a lot about the history of Celtic, because these people are no longer here to speak up for themselves and to tell the stories that they want to tell. And that's where it comes back to. You
mentioned earlier as well, when we were talking about the Green Brigade, young kids asking you about their songs and their chants, and that is through the Kano Foundation, and you're wearing a Kano scarf in the studio at the moment. Tell us a wee bit about the foundation and your involvement in that as well.
So the Kano Foundation is a children's charity. We're based at Celtic Park, and we've got 186 season tickets behind the Lisbon Lion goal, and every league game, 140 odd kids come to Celtic Park, and they have the most unique Celtic experience, the most unique first time ever Celtic experience through the Kano Foundation. And every child goes away with a Kano scarf, a Kano hat, sweeties, juice and crisps, and a Kano goodie bag. And they receive a memory of a lifetime, their very first time looking at Celtic Park and thinking, wow, what is this, and why have I not seen it before? And they all go back to school, and they're just desperate to come again, and it really is truly special.
What's the origins of the foundation? Who set this up?
Back in 2009, a man called Martin Kane was unwell over in Australia, and a group of Celtic fans here in Glasgow decided to come up with a campaign called Bring Martin Home, and it was all about bringing Martin home to Glasgow and I think, I might be wrong, but I think a lot of the funds also went to his medical care as well. And it was just to look after this Celtic fan, giving back to a Celtic fan who had gave so much over his years. And one of the fundraising efforts was a bucket collection at Celtic Park. And a group of young people, a group of kids were helping out. And the campaign decided we need to give back to these young people who have helped us out here. And the rest of the funds had went to bringing these kids into the football. And it essentially has just continued. And it's in Martin Kane's Kano. Martin Kane Kano, that was his nickname. It was in his legacy, but thousands and thousands of kids all over Scotland and Ireland and England and Wales and the world are getting to Celtic Park for free because of that one bucket collection.
What's the age group, Erin, of the kids that come along?
It's under 13, so a lot of families come as well, a lot of babies come, babies and toddlers, if families are coming along. A lot of schools come along, youth clubs, football teams, anybody under the age of 13, along with their parents and coaches and teachers.
Scott Brown's one of your patrons. Obviously Scott kind of gets made out to be the bad guy a lot in the media. How important is he to the Kano Foundation, and what kind of work has he did over the years for you guys? Scott
Brown is truly a hero of mine, not only because he's a captain, a leader and a legend, but because he's made so many special memories for our kids, especially recently. There was a young girl who had made a Scott Brown banner, and she was holding it up when Celtic were doing their lap of honour, and Scott Brown came over and he gave this young girl his captain armband, and that's a memory that will live forever for me, because the girl was told from her teachers and her classmates he might not come over, he might not see it, but he did. He didn't let the club down, and he didn't let himself down, and he didn't let us down, and that's something that I will forever be thankful for.
It's brilliant. I sit in 412, so I can see down on top. All you see is 140 fluorescent vests all jumping up and down along to the Green Brigade. And I go with my daughter. My daughter always hits me and goes, look at them, they're enjoying themselves down there. I said, well, we're enjoying ourselves up here, but you're on Snapchat, right enough. But but when you see that, when you see them walking into the ground as well, you do like a sort of mini march to the ground and not singing and all that. That's beautiful. It's absolutely brilliant. It actually just sums up what us as a support are about. What kind of help do you get for the club? Are the club very accommodating?
We are very thankful for all the support we receive from Celtic supporters clubs, from the club, from everybody who donates, everybody who supports us at our events. Celtic have been great, especially recently, in terms of we just reached our 10,000 child in November, and we had put together a match day programme. We had big screen messages. Myself did a speech on the pitch alongside the 10,000 kid who was, funnily enough, also called Erin. That gave me a wee tear. Promise I didn't pick her out. So we're really thankful for what the club do. We don't receive any financial help from the club. Our seasons are funded entirely by you guys, by the fans. We're entirely fan funded, and we wouldn't have it any other way. There's times where we're sitting at the ground or we're coming up the Celtic Way, and someone will come up and they'll go, here Joe, here Pat, here Erin, here's a £50 cheque. That's for the kids, that's for the Chris, that's for the tickets, whatever it may be. And that is truly the help that we get as often, and it's just so special. And we always say that the Kano Foundation, it's the volunteers, the trustees, the patrons, but it is the Celtic support, and none of it would be possible without the support we receive.
What the Kano do is also replicated on supporters' buses. I know my supporters' bus, we've got a season ticket, a child season ticket, and we use it in the community. So if somebody's got a laddie daughter that doesn't usually go to the football, we take them on the supporters bus and they get the day out for nothing. So we do that as well, eh? And I know there's other supporters clubs, especially in this area, that do the exact same. Because, as you say, you've got 140 kids. If 20 of them then become regular Celtic match goers in the future, then you've done your job. And it's all about that first impression. Your first impression was the songs. Their first impression is somebody as passionate as you taking them to that game, showing them what it's all about. And that's great. That's what the future's all about. It's the same with me taking my daughter, who wasn't really interested, but now she's getting more and more interested. And that's what it is. That's what we're here for. We're just here to pass down the story. That's what we're here
Pass
for.
on the baton.
We recently, when we reached our 10,000 kids, some of the guys for 2010 had got in touch and they were saying, listen, I'm 18 now and I've bought my first season ticket and it was all because of you guys. And that is coming up to our 10th anniversary. That's something that we're really looking to reach out, and we're looking to see who came along back in those early days and who is still coming along now because of us. It's crazy when you think it like that as well.
That would be a fantastic story.
It's remarkable.
Getting an 8-year-old 10 years later and you're going...
Talking about their first day.
That's magnificent.
It is. And have you any plans for the 10th anniversary, Erin?
So we do. A lot of the stuff is in lock and key just now. We've got August 2020, so we've not got long. That is our 10th anniversary season. So we hope to party all year long. We've got our usual golf days, Christmas parties and dances as well. So we've got all that, all our big celebrations. I can't say much just now, but please keep an eye because we've got big things coming this year.
Well, we thankfully have recently enjoyed our 500,000 downloads milestone. So we do have a lot of listeners on a Celtic State of Mind. How can the listeners tap into the Kano Foundation? How can they donate money to what you're doing?
We run a direct debit scheme on the website, and we pledge for anything as simple as £1 a month, £5 a month, £10 a month. We aim to get 1,000 subscribers on £1 a month. We've not quite hit that yet. That's a way of supporting us. Another way of supporting us is simply just talking about us, just speaking at the games and saying that's the Kano Foundation and this is what they do. Simple things like retweets as well, and just talking about the kids. It's all about the kids. And it's not just the kids that come along, it's not just the Kano kids, but it's all the football teams and the coaches and the schools that come along. So I suppose as well, just be Celtic fans, be charitable and just help out the future of the club in any way you can.
Now, Erin, the first time you came to my attention was you done a poem for the BBC Social for the Women's World Cup. How did that come about?
That was right place, right time. I was in a meeting with BBC Scotland, and it was like a youth consultation, and it was all about reaching out to the community of Scotland and the young listeners and the young watchers, and it was about how can we contribute, how can we give feedback to the BBC. And I was sitting next to a man called Anthony Brown, and Anthony Brown is the executive producer of BBC The Social, and I was telling him that I'm a Celtic fan, and I was telling him that I'm a football fan, I was telling him I'm a poet. To be honest, I was sitting next to... At this point in my life, I was buzzing because I was sitting next to an executive producer of the BBC and I was just trying to get as much information out of as I could. And he was really impressed. And he thought, listen, BBC The Social, come along, come to a wee meeting and we'll see what we can get you involved with and how you can use your voice as a young female football fan. And a week later, I had written a poem about the Women's World Cup, and then the following week it was filmed. And then the following week it hit 1 million views on Facebook. So that's how that came about.
BBC Social, it seems to promote a lot of young Scottish creatives. Are you still involved in them? Or?
I am, yes. I've got a lot of love and appreciation, and I really admire the guys at BBC The Social. And it's growing and it's growing. And you're hearing so many different voices all across Scotland and England. And I'm always tuning in on Facebook. I've got some work lined up, couple of poems about Celtic Football Club on the way, and I've also recently been working with BBC Sport as well on an anti-sectarianism campaign, so I can't say much about it just yet, but it's quite exciting that this platform that the BBC have provided young people is then going on and giving us more jobs and more opportunities and opening up our connections within the scary industry that is the BBC, because you always find that you always think, oh, it's the BBC, but it's changed my life and I've learned so much from them, and I really admire the guys that I work with. You
say that you're going to do a couple of Celtic poems and you're working on anti-sectarianism stuff. Do you think that the BBC are taking a chance? Because sometimes they would step away from that because of the two sides, and sometimes they would just leave. Like sometimes you've seen football programmes, I'm not going to name it, but there's one that's on a Saturday afternoon all the time who seem to shy away from Celtic and Rangers.
Name it.
Off the ball. Snobs. No, there's a snobbery. When a Celtic and Rangers fan going to off the ball, the two presenters are very, you didn't support your local team, you're a glory hunter and this and that, when they're actually forgetting, especially being a Celtic fan, it's our heritage that makes us Celtic fans. It doesn't matter if you're in Perth, Aberdeen,
I know.
If you've got an Irish heritage, then Celtic is your team.
Of course. And you're indoctrinated into the whole culture of the club years before, you've got a mind to do it yourself. And see the thing with regards to your poetry, and as I said before, we've got 2 poets in the room, and that's fantastic. I enjoyed listening to Kevin just last night in front of a packed out audience, giving us his Tommy Burns poem. And what happened, Erin, was during that evening, Gordon Strachan approached Kevin and asked him for the poem which he had printed out and took it away.
Wow.
Because I can't remember my poems. I have to read them.
He doesn't rap, he just, he needs to refer to them. However, it was a bit of an honour, I think, for Kevin, for Gordon, to have been so touched with the poem that he's asked him to take that away. Do you think there's a place at Celtic Football Club for an official poet?
It's something that I get asked quite a lot, and I never know the answer to, because, of course, I do. I also find that being Celtic fans, there's a lot of people that are very creative and very artsy, and I feel like the club could do more to endorse the artists that live in the club. It's something that I get asked all the time. Why don't Celtic take that up? Or that poem, that lyric could be on the wall at Celtic Football Club. So yes, of course. But it's not just myself and Kevin. There's so many amazing poets out there who I think Celtic should reach out to, whether that be their media streams or. I mean, there's so many options. Celtic's very creative. Their recent advert, I was blown away by. Their Star of Glasgow's Green and White musical really touched me, especially because there was a lot of young Celtic fans involved who, like myself, make memories for kids that they'll never forget. That's things that those kids will never forget. So it is something, I pledge Celtic to reach out and to see what art they can create from the fans and what they can support us with as well, I think, more importantly.
When they've got the book, the Trinity Treble, and my poems at the start of it, and I was really, really proud that Paul Cuddy wanted to use my Trinity poem in that, But for the couple of kit launches that they've actually had, it's obviously there's been somebody for a PR agency that's done a bit of spoken word, and they've put it to the music, and it's all dramatic, and you know the type of thing, But I do think they should be using people like yourself to give it that bit more realism, a bit more passion, rather than some PR executive sitting somewhere with New Balances, London office, trying to come up, spelling bold wrong.
I even think that was noticeable on Twitter there the other week when Alistair Gray died. I never knew Alistair had ever designed a Celtic programme cover that Paul had asked him to do. And you think now, Alistair's not here, but it could have been used to a lot better extent,
You mentioned there, Kevin, that you're published by Celtic in one of the books. You're also published in my forthcoming book, where we use one of Kevin's poems regarding the Celtic jersey, and it's in the introduction of the book. So getting your work published then, is that something that you've done, or have you any plans to do?
No, I've had no work published just yet. Of course, I would love to get my work published, especially within the Celtic community. There's a lot of stories that I want other Celtic fans throughout the generations to hear, especially when you've got your work published, that's it forever, and it can be passed down generation to generation. There's books that my granddad's had passed down to my dad's had passed down to me, and work that I would love published is about the Kano Foundation, and I write a lot about the Kano Foundation, and to get work published, a dream of mine is to get a book of poems published about the Kano Foundation, that all the money then goes right into the Kano Foundation again.
We'll publish it. Celtic State of Mind could publish that for you. So anybody listening who wants to submit a poem can do that, and we'll give all the profits to the Kano. We publish books.
Wow, I didn't know that.
So that's what we can do. Anybody listening who's a poet can send their submissions in, and we could collate them, edit them, and all the profits could go to the Kano Foundation.
Wow, that's amazing.
No limericks. I don't
No
like
limericks.
it.
Well, that's me out then.
I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding.
I might give it a bash as well, you never know.
Writing work is something that's quite new to me, not new to me, more that I'm a spoken word artist, and I write on paper, I write how it sounds to me in my ear, and I write how it comes out in my mouth, and when I read back my work, it's definitely a challenge that I would really love to do, is written word, spoken word.
Do you see a difference between the two, between written and spoken? Because I know somebody like Kate Tempest, when you actually read her stuff, it says at the start of it, this is meant to be spoken out loud. So it forces you to actually read it out loud as you're reading it, basically. Eh? Do you think there is a difference? Because the poem that you've done for us, I reckon would look okay written down as well, and it would still have the same amount of, you still get the same passion,
impact.
the same energy from it as well.
I suppose I do and I don't. I think when you read a lot, there's a book I've got in the house, the Celtic Anthology, and Joe McKenna, one of my good friends from Dublin who does the Homeboys podcast.
No, Joe. Hiya, Joe.
Joe's a great guy, Joe. Joe's poem and a lot of other poems in that was the first time I'd really read poems about Celtic written down, and it's getting the Glasgow dialect and the way we speak onto paper, and I think that's hugely important. And growing up in school and growing up in writers' workshops, they would always tell you, write properly, write in correct grammar and make sure things spell right. But to me, as a writer and a poet, that's not the way I want to tell stories. I want to tell stories the way that we speak and the way that Glaswegians and Scotsmen and Irishmen throughout generations, the way they speak. And yeah, I think it's so important just to...
It's important to capture it.
Of course,
It's really important to capture it.
But even the club's name was written down and people didn't know how to pronounce it. And that's why we're called Celtic, because it was Celtic. So it is important to have the spoken word element as well. But let's do that with the book. Let's put that out. And obviously we could have a visual element to that as well in relation to videos and that kind of thing. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Tell us a wee bit about your second poem that you've recited for us.
So this poem I wrote not that long ago. The poem is about a Kano patron, and it's Joe Mackin, who is a Kano trustee, who is talking about his love, I suppose you could say, for the Kano patrons and for Tom Boyd in this poem in particularly. And Joe told me a story once that the first time he'd met Tom Boyd, he was like, it's Tom Boyd, let's get him as our patron. And then as they got to know each other, Tom was like, Joe, just call me Tam. It's all my pals, call me Tam. It's fine, just call me Tam. And like many stories Joe has recently as well, he's been telling us a story about the time he scored a goal at Celtic Park. It must have been one of the charity matches kind of thing. He never lets his stories go, and he always goes on about his amazing, brilliant life. Listen, just call me Tam. Celtic's history-making, title-taking, treble-winning captain, Tom Boyd, MBE, telling me, hi mate, just call me Tam. It's just another day, a young me saying, what, no way. It's in a young fan's heart and a young boy's eye, scoring goals in the hoops and pointing to the skies. It's just a dream. A Glasgow boy playing with his daft wee street team jumpers as goalposts, running out to play, munching on his burnt toast. Young me, you don't play in hoops, still get shite football boots. You're still a bam, but you're best pals, Tam. You're teeing off with Bruni, having dinner with Hoopy, getting cheek to Lawwell, coming out your wee shell. You're singing with Fallon, drinking with Alan. Wee man, you don't play with Celtic, I'm afraid to say, but you're taking thousands of wains to see the Kano, the Celtic way. You're still a bam, but you're best pals, Tam.
I'm glad you've come in, Erin. We've been talking about you coming on to a Celtic State of Mind for a wee while. And just on the back of that, you've told us all about the Kano Foundation. So please, all our listeners, visit the website, visit you on Twitter, give as much as you can to support this incredible initiative that you're involved in. And hopefully you and I can work together, the Kano Foundation and a Celtic State of Mind, and getting some poets out there to raise some cash for the foundation as well. All that's left for me to say, Erin, is thank you very much for being on A Celtic State of Mind.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
All the best.